Good evening. Tonight we are meeting in room 250, or sorry, good evening. Tonight is December 4th, 2023. We're going to be meeting in room 255 at approximately 6 p.m. for standing committee on social and economic development. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Will the Standing Committee on Social and Economic Development please come to order? Before the committee can proceed with the business before it, it must elect a chairperson. Are there any nominations? Honourable Minister Cable.
I nominate MLA Cross.
MLA Cross has been nominated. Are there any further nominations? Seeing none, MLA Cross, please take the chair.
Our next item of business is the election of a vice chairperson. Are there any nominations? Minister Cable?
I nominate Monsieur Loisel.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, MLA Loisel is elected vice chairperson. This meeting has been called to consider the following. Bill number Bill number 2, the Louis Riel Act. Bill number 4, the Employment Standards Code Amendment and Interpretation Amendment Act, Orange Shirt Day. I would like to inform all in attendance of the provisions in our rules regarding the hour of adjournment. A standing committee meeting to consider a bill must not sit past midnight to hear public presentations or to consider clause by clause of a bill, except by unanimous consent of the committee. Prior to proceeding with public presentations, I would like to advise members of the public regarding the process for speaking in a committee. In accordance with our rules, a time limit of 10 minutes has been allotted for presentations, with another 5 minutes allowed for questions from committee members. Questions shall not exceed 30 seconds in length, with no time limit for answers. Questions may be addressed to presenters in the following rotation. First Minister sponsoring the bill, second, a member of the official opposition, and third, an independent member. If a presenter is not in attendance when their name is called, they will be dropped to the bottom of the list. If the presenter is not in attendance when their name is called a second time, they will be removed from the presenter's list. The proceedings of our meetings are recorded in order to provide a verbatim transcript. Each time someone wishes to speak, whether it be an MLA or a presenter, I first have to say the person's name. This is the signal for the Hansard recorder to turn mics on and off. On the topic of determining the order of public presentations, I will note that we do have a presenter who indicated they wish to present in French. They are marked with a double asterisk on the list. With that consideration in mind, in what order does the committee wish to hear the presentations? MLA Loisel.
I have a suggestion that our first presentation be, in fact, in French.
Okay, it has been suggested that the first presenter be the person speaking in French, and then we will continue through the list. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you for your patience. We will now proceed with public presentations. I will now call on Joël Tétrault to please proceed with your presentation.
Bonsoir. Je me nomme Joël Tétrault et je représente l'Union nationale métisse Saint-Joseph du Manitoba à titre de secrétaire de l'organisme. Je vous apporte les regrets de la présidente Paulette Duguay et le vice-président Justin Johnson. Premièrement, merci de m'avoir accueilli ce soir. Il me fait un grand plaisir de vous parler aujourd'hui pour le premier organisme représentant les métis au Manitoba. Fondée en 1887, l'Union nationale métisse Saint-Joseph est fondée 2 ans après le meurtre politique de Louis Riel. L'Union nationale Saint-Joseph du Manitoba avait pour mandat de protéger l'héritage de Louis Riel et du peuple métis. Nous avions aussi la responsabilité de raconter les vraies histoires par rapport aux événements qui ont eu lieu lors de la résistance de la Rivière-Rouge et la subséquente création du Manitoba. En plus, nos ancêtres, qu'on surnommait les fidèles à Riel, voulaient s'assurer que les actions courageuses de Louis Riel et les Métis lors de la résistance du Nord-Ouest soient racontées de façon véridique et honnête. Étant secrétaire de l'Union nationale métisse Saint-Joseph du Manitoba, je suis conscient que j'ai une lourde responsabilité aujourd'hui, car, si vous ne saviez pas, Louis Riel était d'abord et avant tout le premier secrétaire du Comité national métis qui représentait les Métis à l'automne de 1869. D'ailleurs, c'est ce comité qui a instigé et soutenu le mouvement de résistance qui a assuré la création du Manitoba. Je veux m'assurer aujourd'hui de faire honneur à mes ancêtres et de bien représenter les opinions de l'Union par rapport à ce projet de loi. Je sais que par la grâce de Dieu, je suis le fondateur du Manitoba. Ces mots ont été prononcés par Louis Riel pendant son procès. Enfin, par ce projet de loi, Louis Riel sera reconnu à sa juste valeur et sera confirmé et reconnu comme l'un des pères de la Confédération canadienne. Une grande victoire pour Louis Riel, ses fidèles et leurs descendants. En négligeant pour 150 années de confirmer l'apport politique et les victoires de Louis Riel, le gouvernement du Manitoba perpétuait l'omission des grandes contributions apportées par les nombreux peuples autochtones et leurs chefs à bâtir et maintenir les fondations d'une province hospitalière, accueillante et inclusive. La liste des droits qui ont été en partie créés par le gouvernement provisoire et les citoyens de la Rivière-Rouge n'a jamais vraiment été reconnue légitimement. Je suis convaincu, sans aucun doute, que si cette liste n'aurait pas été enchâssée dans la loi du Manitoba, notre province n'aurait certainement pas été un endroit que l'on reconnaît aujourd'hui. C'est certain que le bilinguisme, la liberté religieuse et surtout des écoles publiques qui reflètent des valeurs inclusives n'auraient jamais vu le jour. Nous ne devons jamais d'oublier que le Manitoba est d'abord et avant tout un espace autochtone. Et ce projet de loi confirme le rôle joué par Louis Riel et les Métis à maintenir, préserver et légiférer ce fait historique. Finalement, en légiférant que Louis Riel est réellement l'un des grands fondateurs de notre province, votre gouvernement répare l'une de ses plus grandes erreurs historiques. Ce n'est qu'en racontant l'histoire de façon véridique que notre province puisse vraiment aspirer à une vraie réconciliation. Pendant 100 ans, mon peuple va dormir. Dans 100 ans, il se fera réveiller par les artistes. Oui, ça, c'est une citation qui est souvent attribuée à Louis Riel. Cette citation en dit long sur ce qu'il pensait du rôle des artistes dans la préservation de la mémoire nationale. Plusieurs pédagogues croient fermement que l'enseignement est un art. Étant éducateur moi-même, je suis du même avis. Selon la tradition métisse, les meilleurs enseignants sont les meilleurs raconteurs et raconteuses, car ils ou elles ont le don de vulgariser et transmettre des leçons de vie essentielles avec aisance et simplicité. L'Union nationale Saint-Joseph du Manitoba est aussi sur la même longueur d'onde. Nous sommes ravis de constater qu'une des provisions de la loi sera de s'assurer que les programmes d'études reflètent et soient écrits pour éduquer les enfants manitobains des vraies contributions de Louis Riel et les Métis. Nous espérons que ce sera le premier pas vers un plus grand effort de décoloniser le système d'éducation. En revanche, nous espérons que le travail sera fait en consultant et en incluant les organismes et des éducateurs métis. Nous croyons fermement qu'on ne devrait rien créer à notre sujet sans notre participation active. Nous devons chérir notre héritage, nous devons préserver notre nationalité pour les futures générations des jeunes. Notre histoire devrait être écrite pour pouvoir bien le transmettre. Comme le dit si bien Louis Riel, bien transmettre l'histoire est un outil identitaire capital. D'ailleurs, ceci a aussi toujours été une grande croyance chez l'Union nationale Saint-Joseph du Manitoba. De plus, nous croyons sincèrement que les leçons de l'histoire, positives ou négatives, ont moulé la société dans laquelle nous vivons aujourd'hui, mais surtout qu'elles doivent guider nos futures actions. Si nous regardons les iniquités, les défis et une certaine division qui existe actuellement dans notre province, nous implorons le nouveau gouvernement de mettre en œuvre certaines valeurs principales véhiculées par Louis Riel et nos ancêtres métis. Les valeurs telles que l'hospitalité, l'acceptance, la liberté, compassion et le souci de l'autre devraient guider le gouvernement dans ses efforts d'améliorer, réformer et décoloniser nos institutions publiques pour qu'on puisse créer ensemble une meilleure société. Unissons-nous pour que notre province se rapproche éventuellement de la vision et les aspirations qu'avait Riel par rapport à notre communauté. Nous croyons sincèrement que ce projet est, sans aucun doute, un pas dans cette direction. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Joelle Tétrault. Thank you for your presentation. Do members of the committee have questions for the presenter? Honorable First Minister.
Alors, merci beaucoup pour votre témoignage. Et puis, je pense que votre participation dans cet événement dans la langue française, ça nous montre un peu des contributions de M. Riel. Et puis, il y avait beaucoup dans votre discours au sujet de l'inclusion dans le système d'éducation, des contributions de M. Riel. Alors, moi, je me demande, et je te demande aussi, comment est-ce qu'on pourrait inclure les éducateurs, les éducatrices métisses dans ce processus? Nous avons le département d'éducation ici au niveau de la province, mais il y a aussi des knowledge keepers et puis ceux qui connaissent la langue métif et puis des autres éducateurs et éducatrices qui sont peut-être dehors du système d'éducation formelle, mais il y a en même temps des contributions à faire. Alors, c'est une question assez grande, mais je vous demande de peut-être réfléchir un peu.
Hang on. Order.
We're going to pause that off. Just remind members.
Just a reminder to all members that questions shall not exceed 30 seconds. Mr. Tétrault.
Je vais répondre en deux parties. La première, je vais répondre au nom de l'Union nationale métisse Saint-Joseph du Manitoba, mais aussi comme éducateur métis. Je pense que deux grandes priorités que je proposais au gouvernement. La première, ce serait d'avoir un plan d'éducation autochtone clair et précis. On a un moment to say when, oui, mais je pense qu'on peut aller plus loin, soutenir les éducateurs autochtones et non seulement les éducateurs autochtones, mais les éducateurs non autochtones. Je pense qu'il y a beaucoup de travail à faire à décoloniser nos curriculums. Et je commencerai en regardant de façon critique nos curriculums et nos façons de faire dans la salle de classe et surtout la pédagogie. Je pense qu'en deux parties, décoloniser nos écoles et rendre les écoles sécuritaires pour tous nos élèves, ça veut dire de regarder la façon qu'on enseigne et notre système d'éducation publique de façon critique. Ça ne veut pas dire que notre système d'éducation n'a pas fait des bonnes choses dans le passé, mais je pense que si on regarde au décalage entre le pourcentage de finissants autochtones et le pourcentage de finissants non autochtones, il y a un décalage de plus de 30 %. Puis je pense qu'on a besoin de plus d'aînés dans nos salles de classe, plus d'aînés dans nos écoles. On devrait aussi peut-être changer certains critères d'enseignement. Je pense qu'il y a beaucoup d'obstacles au niveau universitaire qui empêchent beaucoup d'enseignants ou futurs enseignants autochtones de prendre leur place dans les salles de classe puis dans nos écoles. L'autre chose, je travaillerai beaucoup pour attirer des éducateurs autochtones au niveau administratif aussi, parce qu'on sait, au niveau de l'école, les administrateurs et les administratrices ont une grande influence sur la culture d'école. Alors ça, c'est en gros là, ce que je proposerais dès le début, mais ça serait le fun. Peut-être qu'on pourrait prendre un café un jour pour en discuter davantage.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Owasco.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Monsieur Tétrault, for your presentation and your service to Riel School Division students. As the former Education and Early Childhood Learning Minister, I have to say that working with the Red River Métis, Minister Ledoux and Minister Chartrand has been just absolutely eye-opening and wonderful experience. And I just want to say again, thank you very much for your presentation coming here this evening. And I look forward to working closely, but now on the opposition or on the education advocacy side as opposed to critics. So thank you again for your presentation and your dedication to your students.
Mr. Tétrault. Do you have a response?
Well, first of all, yeah, I am a teacher in the Louis Riel School Division, and I'm proud to work for that division. However, I'm here representing l'Union Nationale Saint-Joseph, Métis Saint-Joseph du Manitoba, and I hope today that one day the MMF and our organization can build bridges together so we can both unite and talk with the same voice one day. So hopefully this is. Hopefully, I'm hopeful that someday that will happen. But as a educator, I thank you very much for your comments, and I hope that you'll all work together to support teachers and support this public school. Sorry.
Any more questions? Emily Lamoureux.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and thank you so much for your presentation. I really appreciated how you talked about the importance of recognizing our past, both the good and the bad. I think that's often lost amongst a lot of us, so thank you for emphasizing that point. And I just wanted to ask, are there more things that we could be doing provincially to help build those connections for you?
Is there leave to allow time for a response? Because we've run out of time.
Agreed.
Okay, Mr. Tatro?
Well, as an educator, I think truly investing in public schools and not defunding it would be the first objective or the first thing we should do. The other thing I would do is making sure that we create safe spaces for all students. A lot of students, especially Indigenous students, do not feel secure and physically or mentally in our classrooms. And I think for Métis students as well, they're sometimes lost in the shuffle. A lot of Métis students don't want to self-declare. We know that history has been taught, and I know in my family, I still struggle with some family members not wanting to admit that we are truly Métis, and I raise my kids. I raised my kids to respect history, respect their culture, their identity. So I think having more teachers that reflect that the Métis identity, that know their culture, that know their history, and I think having a look at the history curriculum, I think history has often been taught in the Facebook version of history has always been taught in our classrooms, and to never look at it critically. And as a history teacher, I was a history teacher for 17 years before becoming a Indigenous education teacher. You have to look at that curriculum. I would redo it completely. And I think that Indigenous history and Métis history should be weaved for a better word, better weave that history, because Indigenous history is almost, and Métis history is almost looked as an aside, and if we have time, we'll do that. And I can tell you that Indigenous students in my classrooms really feel that when most teachers put that aside. So I think there's a lot we can do, but yeah, the history curriculum, I think there's no reconciliation without truth, and I think there's no real reconciliation without telling the real story of what happened here in Manitoba, especially. I mean, my family was forced to flee in the 1870s because of the Reign of Terror, and the story we tell in our classrooms is that Manitoba was created in a peaceful manner, and it was a great transition, but not for my family. My family had to flee to the United States and actually had to live there for over 15 years before coming back. And when they came back, what was left? Well, all the great pieces of land were given away to the former soldiers that raped, killed my ancestors. So, I mean, I know those are strong words, but those are the truth. So I think there's a way to approach it in a classroom, but I think we should approach it in truth and not in half-truths.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I think I can speak on behalf of all of us. We appreciate everything that you've said tonight. Are there any other presenters wishing to do their presentation in French? Right here. Are there any members wishing to speak in French during the remainder of the committee proceedings this evening? Seeing none, our interpreter can now head home. On behalf of all committee members, we thank our interpreter, Orson, for his hard work in the House today and at the committee this evening at short notice.
Point of order.
Yep. Honorable First Minister.
And can we all collectively wish the translator a happy birthday and our sincere thanks for coming in on his birthday to help us out.
Honorable First Minister, that was not a point of order, but we thank you for your attempt. Okay, I will now call on, sorry. Okay, should I let everyone know? I would like to let everyone know that the interpreter said thank you very much. I will now call on our next presenter, Miss Anita Campbell. Do you have any materials to be distributed to the committee?
No, I don't.
Please proceed with your presentation.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today on behalf of Infinity Women's Secretariat. We are a proud affiliate of the Manitoba Métis Federation, the Red River Métis government. Sorry, my throat is a bit sore today, so hopefully I can do justice to this. First of all, I want to thank, of course, Premier Wab Kinew for your advocacy and work to bring Bill 2 this far along, and we are so proud of this. Today is yet another day, an historic one, as we come together to consider Bill 2, the Louis Riel Act. Louis Riel was an outstanding leader who always supported his people, consistently moving forward to protect and recognize the rights and identity of the Red River Métis. He brought the province of Manitoba into Confederation, so it is very fitting that he should be made the first honorary premier of this province. We also know that women played an important role in Riel's life. His grandma, his mom, his sisters, his wife. We know that these were important women who helped him achieve all he did and what he was able to accomplish. And so for me, that's exactly the role that we as Métis women continue to play within our families, our communities, and also within our own Red River Métis government. We continue to play on that role and take on that responsibility. For those who have heard me speak lately, you know that identity has been one of the focuses of my conversations over the last few months. I was born in a Red River Métis community of Duck Bay and was not always proud to say I was Métis. Growing up, I was often treated differently because of the color of my skin. And I think there's a lot of people that have gone through that. This has made me more aware of my identity, and for many years I wanted to hide who I was. But as I grew older, this actually made me more determined, more challenged, and more feisty about to help other women and girls, just like me, facing the stigma of being Métis. This past weekend, we had held a consultation in Brandon to hear feedback from our members about what could be done to create a more equitable society, one in which all Métis women are valued and respected. We also had asked them to share stories about their facing stigma, racism, and discrimination, to becoming proud and flourishing Métis women, reclaiming their rightful place in society. When asked about the bias and discrimination faced in their everyday life, the responses were similar to, I don't know where to start, to one woman had expressed that she was actually not able to declare herself as Métis because of the pale complexion of her skin, and therefore she was denied her identity and her culture. The responses from our women attest to all the challenges they have had to overcome on this road. Red River Métis women are often excluded at a political level, for example, as an afterthought to consultations. I think it's even including our Red River Métis people who are excluded from consultations that continue to exist. For example, there's consultations that'll happen and we're an actual afterthought to, oh yeah, we forgot about the Métis people. And so for us, it's a matter of making sure that our voices are heard, specifically our Métis women. Over the past decade, I can say that I'm a very proud Métis, and my life has been focused on creating these programs and services for women, girls, and members of our 2S LGBTQ+ community to address all types of discrimination and hardships they face in their lives. I've been advocating for Métis women, and IWS is becoming a legacy of its own through its strength and resiliency of our over 1,800 plus members. The introduction and reading of the Louis Riel Act are critical steps in ensuring that the Red River Métis are not just included, but can take a leading role in discussions that focus on Métis women's needs. As looking at these, what was I going to talk about tonight and what I was going to present, and then when I look at all, and I think go back to what has always been presented as part of the memorial event that we hold at Louis Riel's gravesite. And throughout the years that we've been doing this, there's always one of the members that'll mention all of the things that are named after Louis Riel. Whether it's just the Louis Riel School that was just mentioned, the Louis Riel, the bridge, the school, everything, the streets, everything that's named after Louis Riel. I think in itself, we are thinking about the women that are attached to his life, whether it was his mom, his grandma, his sisters, his wife, the friends of the families that he knew, and the effect that they had on his life. And one of the ones that came through, and I'm not sure if people are aware of Annie Bannatyne. So Annie Bannatyne also has a plaque in the Health Science Center. There's a contribution plaque that is identified, that she's identified in. And so I just wanted to read you a little thing on Annie Bannatyne, because I thought it was important to mention her and the role that she played on Louis Riel. And so she's perhaps one of the most famous stories of a woman influencing Louis Riel as one of Annie Bannatyne, McDermott actually, Annie McDermott Bannatyne. And so she was educated, opinionated, and she used her privilege to good purpose. So a man named Charles Mair, who was member of the Canada First, had advocated for the annexation of the historic Northwest, had a letter published in the Toronto Globe, which you might recognize as one of half of Canada's today Globe and Mail. In the letter, Charles Mair said, "Many wealthy people are married to half-breed women who, having no coat of arms, but a totem to look back to, make up for the deficiency by biting at the backs of their white sisters." And of course, this would have been read and discussed ad volume throughout in many of the corners of the Red River Métis settlement. But it was Annie Bannatyne's reaction that had been documented and passed down in Canadian history, in the nation's history. So on one Saturday afternoon, at 4 p.m, while the store was full of people, Annie advances on Mair, seizes his nose between her fingers, and gives him 5 or 6 strokes of the whip on different parts of his body. "Look," she says, "this is how the women of the Red River treat those who insult them." By evening, the incident was known all across the country. I'm not saying that I'm approving of violence, because I am against violence. I'm just saying that I can understand why Annie felt compelled to be violent in this case. It was her way of making a statement that for somebody to speak ill will of women, especially Red River Métis women, was not something that she was going to accept or condone. So by the end of April 1869, history shows that Riel was clearly associating Annie Bannatyne's stand against Mair with his own stand against the takeover of the Red River by the Canadian government. And so that's only one example of the role that women played in our history. To put it simply, the Red River Métis are matriarchal people. And our nation has always valued the contributions, teachings, and guidance of our women. Even today, Red River Métis women are the backbone of our families, our communities, and working together, they form the foundation of our nation. From our locals to our cabinet, our women are leaders within our Red River Métis communities and government, building relationships and advocating for our nation. Look at our cabinet and also our leadership team. The staff that are there, majority, are women. You can plainly see that women continue to play a strong role in our government and in our politics. This is a nation that Louis Riel was born into, and this is the culture that still exists today. So today I speak to Bill 2, the Louis Riel Act, and we celebrate the recognition he is receiving. We remember how he lived, what he fought for, and the sacrifices he made to defend us all. And we remember how he became the man he was. So to Premier Wab Canoe, I was actually going to say to Premier Canoe, Wab, On behalf of the women of our nation, who I am proud to be the voice for, I say thank you. Thank you for recognizing Riel, for recognizing his struggle, and for giving us a chance to speak for our ancestors on this very important day. We will carry on the legacies of Riel and all our ancestors. We will build on their legacies now and into the future. To me, identity is so important, and being proud of who you are, because we're not only talking about ourselves, we're talking about the generations that are coming behind us, the generations that are with us today, and the older generations, because it has been that long that people are proud to say that they are Métis. And today, it is a good day to be Métis. We have so many of our citizens that are coming back, and I know the story that the previous speaker is talking about because we hear it all the time. There are so new Métis that I'll put in brackets because they're coming home. And one of the things that we've always said is that we will welcome with open arms all of our Métis citizens, our Red River Métis citizens. And so for us, the identity, the education that's going to change in the schools, and I was really particularly looking at the bill, and at the bottom, it had the explanatory note.
You have about
am I
5
done?
seconds.
Okay, I can talk fast. I said the Louis Riel Act bestows the honorary title of first Premier of Manitoba on Louis Riel. The Manitoba education curriculum must now include the significant contributions of Louis Riel. And I think that's the important part of this act, is to change the history that's been wrongly recorded in our books and said to our young people. So thank you very much for allowing me to be a speaker today. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Do members of the committee have questions for the presenter? Honorable First Minister.
Anita, for your presentation, and there's a lot in there. And as you point out, the bill charges the Minister of Education to take some steps to work with the curriculum for public and private schools to include Riel and Métis history. I would probably refer the Minister to review your comments here at the committee, because there's a lot of good stuff in there with that in mind. So if he looks at that, what would you want him to interpret that with? What thoughts should he keep in mind as he's reviewing your comments and thinking about how to bring it into the curricula?
Ms. Campbell?
Thank you. To me, two things. I think if we don't change the wrong that was put into the books, then they'll always be there. I think we need to clarify the history. Growing up, Louis Riel to us was always a traitor. He was always, the bad person. And I think that's largely why most people did not want to associate or be recognized with him. So I think changing that history, making it right, correcting what was in the books is going to change a lot, especially for the young people, because we tend to have a lot of our young people come from school, go home, whether it's to their parents or their grandparents, or even their aunties. They go home and they talk about what they learned in school. And I think in changing that, they'll be able to now clarify to the aunties or the grandmas that don't want to get their citizenship card, to be able to clarify to them, here's what the real history is about Louis Riel and about the Métis people. Because, everybody doesn't do this on their own. Louis Riel didn't do all on his own. Hence why the women, his friends, his comrades were all important people. And I think that's what it's to change. Because I'm proud of where I'm from, I'm proud of this province, and I'm proud of our country. And so if we don't change that and correct the wrong, then the history will always be there. So I think that's one thing. I think the second thing that the minister should look into is starting from the early learning childcare, is starting at that level. I think that's so important for us to instill culture, instill who they are, where they come from, who do they belong to, their community, and instill that right from the bottom up and moving that up. So I think those two things would be the two things that I would pull from here in terms of the education piece of it and focusing his attentions on that, which, by the way, I'm going to go see him after. Thank you.
Mr. Owasco?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ms. Campbell, for your presentation. I agree. I mean, being a teacher for over 17 years before I got into this wonderful political life, it was many students would be apprehensive to come forward and self-identify, and it's nice to see over the last few years that more and more students are getting that, not necessarily courage, but that education to be able to, have those conversations with other supporting adults, their caregivers, their parents in their lives, to come forward and self-identify.
please. The member's time has expired. Ms. Campbell, would you like to respond?
Sure. I agree with what he said, and so I was trying to pull the question from what he was going to ask, but I think it's important to note that it's if we don't change now, if we don't have that history corrected, then you're going to have those. Because for me, it's every time a woman comes through, because for us, they have to have a citizenship card in order to belong to IWS and be one of our members. And so we know they're part of it. I've had women come up to me and ask if their sister's daughter could be part of or does the blood quantum matter? And at some point, do we run out? And so it's that whole educating them about who the Métis people are, and educating them about how you are Métis. And it has nothing to do with your blood quantum, and you don't run out of being Métis in your family. Because I think the more that we have educating our own people about, or even just society in general, about who the Métis people are and what we brought to this province is going to be integral in terms of moving us all as Manitobans forward. Because we don't just, again, work alone. We work with everyone. So, but I agree. I think it's important for us to be able to move together and make sure that history is rewritten and that our identity is something to be proud of. Everybody wants to be Métis, literally. I don't know, I just thought I'd throw that in.
MLA Lamoureux.
Do I have leave just to make a response?
Otherwise, is there leave for MLA Lamoureux to pose a question? Agreed. MLA Lamoureux.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and it's more of just a comment than a question. I want to thank you for your presentation, and I just want to sort of highlight how telling it is that so far we've had two presenters and both of you have shared stories, personal stories of people you know who have had to hide their identity, who have chosen to hide their identity, as well as being felt like the aftermath of something or not having room in the school curriculum to talk about something. I'm feeling very fortunate just to be learning by you here today. I want to thank you for that. And I say be loud, be opinionated. I love the word you used, be feisty. Thank you.
Order, is there a question? Okay, time has expired. Ms. Campbell, would you like to respond?
Thank you so much for your kind comments. I think one of the things for us is, and you'll notice this with, I'm not sure if you've noticed it with my fellow sisters, we tend to talk a lot, and we tend to be opinionated. We tend to want to make sure that our voice is not only being allowed to speak, but being heard. And I think that's part of what we as Métis women always are. And I think part of the thing for us in terms of our own communities is that we've always been respected that way in terms of being able to provide that voice to our community, to our families. And so for us, when we go into the society and we're not regarded that way, then we start becoming now a little bit more opinionated and a little bit more in terms of the information that we want to share. We still today find people out there all the time, every day. It doesn't matter, every day. I could walk into a store, the young people that are there, they see my coat, my jacket, anything, and they ask me if I'm Métis, and I say, yeah, I am. I said, are you? And they still have parents that won't allow them to get their card, because the parent doesn't want to get their card. And so they wait to be 18, and I give them my card and I tell them, call me, I'll get you a child card. Because there's ways for us to be able to do that. Because they want to belong to somebody. They know they know they can be Métis, but they get no support still. It's getting less and less, which is great, but us being able to provide that and provide that support in that community to them. And that home, I think, is what they're looking for. So thank you so much.
On behalf of the committee, I would like to thank you for your presentation and thank you for giving voice to Métis women tonight. Thank you for being here.
Should it?
Right. I will now call on President David Chartrand. Do you have any materials to be distributed to the committee?
No. In fact, he told me I couldn't, so I didn't bring anything. Anyways,
Please proceed.
We didn't time you from getting here and lost a minute already, so I just want to know my 10 minutes. I was telling my wife, I said, oh, I would never ask Billy come chair my meeting, so it cuts off too quick. Anyways, let me say this. Look around this room. Not at yourselves. Look at the walls. These are our premiers. These are premiers of our province that led us, and which I believe one of the most beautiful provinces in this country. What better place to talk about this particular bill than this room and to see that wall? And, you know, I was thinking about, I have a presentation, I've got to make sure I'm in 10 minutes, obviously, here. But let me say this. Thank you to the 25th Premier of Manitoba, First Nation Premier in Canada. 25th, I say. Because the first three were not elected premiers, but they're recognized in history as first premiers. And we reflect our thoughts and my thoughts. I've been campaigning on this for at least 30 years. I've got a ways on some parts. I was able to achieve quite a bit in getting certain parts, fodder, Confederation, the debate happened in Parliament. Then we've been able to get to a level of a holiday named after him. In other parts, we all know it's called Family Day. Here it's called Riel Day. And not only was the Métis government lobbying, it's the children of this province who also adopted that position. And that was under the leadership of Gary Doer. Because Gary and I had some discussions and he asked my opinion on it. And of course, I told him how proud I'd be if that ever happened. And I got his picture hanging in a wall amongst all other premiers, but he's not recognized as the first premier of this province. Now, I want to read some quotes. It's not typical of me, as you all know me. I don't speak with notes. I speak to what I know, and I speak from my heart and from my knowledge. But I got to read these because apparently they're going unanswered, so I got to keep my context of my statements in line. But let me first say for the answered, and for people here who may have misunderstood Anita when she said we saw Riel as a traitor and as sort of a bad guy. That's not what she meant. We didn't see it that way. The school system saw it that way and taught us that. Because I remember I rebelled at 14 years old on this whole issue in school. So I just want to correct that because I know what she meant, but I don't want the answer to misrepresent and somebody will walk out here and say, oh, the Métis taught the same thing. No, we did not. Secondly, our Métis government has always had our doors open. So UNL Nashimichis is in my view, one of our locals. We have about 130 in the province. And of course, they're always welcome to our government at any time they want to come. But let me read now what I'm forced to read. I'd rather speak from the cuff, but I have no choice. Thank you to the Standing Committee on the Social and Economic Development for inviting me to speak as a witness on Bill 2, the Lou Riel Act. The Lou Riel Act seeks to, I want to look at the time here, so give me some time, give me a notice or something. Lou Riel Act seeks to give formal recognition to Lou Riel as the honorary first premier of Manitoba. This bill will ensure the truth of Riel's legacy and his contributions to Manitoba, and indeed his legacy in historical and contemporary Canada, is told through the curriculum delivered by Manitoba's public and independent schools. Before reconciliation is possible, we must first have the truth. When Red River Métis identity is being manipulated on a national scale and our symbols and heroes stolen, the recognition of the truth has never been more important than it is today. And for those of you, it's a big national fight right now, because in Ontario, they're stealing our heroes, they're stealing Riel, they're stealing our beadwork, they're stealing our music, and they say it's theirs. They are not, it is not theirs, it is ours in the West. That a government led by the First Nation Premier of Manitoba has recognized a Red River Métis statesman and a politician in this way is a testament to Riel's place as a visionary leader who could see the potential and promise of our homeland. At his trial, Riel said, "When I came into the Northwest in July, the 1st of July, 1984, I found the Indians suffering. I found the half-breeds eating the rotten pork of the Hudson Bay Company and getting sick and weak every day. Although a half-breed and having no pretension to help the whites, I also paid attention to them. I saw they deprived of responsible government. I saw they were deprived of their public liberties. This is Riel himself. Not just for the Red River Métis, but for all Métis who call the Red River Settlement home in 1869, all people who call it home today. In 1885, Riel said, "I'm more convinced every day that without a single exception, I did right, and have always believed that as I have acted honestly, the time will come when the people of Canada will see and acknowledge it." I think that time has come. Today, we recognize the truth that Riel's vision sought equality for all, including the list of rights adopted at Upper Fort Garry on Wednesday, October 1st, 1869, 154 years and 3 days ago. This is what it said: the right of the people to elect their own legislative. That was a decision of course, our government, Riel's government. That treaties be concluded and ratified between the Dominion government and the several tribes of Indians in the territory to ensure peace on the frontier. That the English and French languages be the common language of the legislator and the courts. Fair and full presentation of the Canadian Parliament. 154 and 3 days ago, this is what Riel led and negotiated into confederation. The provincial government led by Lou Riel adopted a list of rights based on a multicultural, bilingual, and inclusive vision of a province that respected the rights of Indigenous people and minority rights. For generations, our children were taught that Riel was a madman, a traitor. However, the legacy he left us through his own words demonstrate he was clear in his purpose and his commitment to his people. Now you can hear me read a lot of quotes, and I urge you to listen to them, because this is not taught in our schools. When the government of Canada presented itself at our doors, this is Riel, when the government of Canada presented itself at our doors, it found us at peace. It found the Métis people of the Northwest could only live well without it, but that it had a government of its own, free, peaceful, well-functioning, contributing to the work of civilization. It was a government with an organized constitution whose jurisdiction was all the more legitimate and worthy of respect because it was exercised over a country that belonged to it. This is all his quotes. I'm going to keep on reading them. We must seek to preserve the existence of our own people. We must not by our own act allow ourselves to be swamped. If the day comes when that is done, it must be no act of ours. It is to be understood there were two societies who treated together. One was small, but its smallness had its rights. The other was great, but its greatness had no greater rights than the rights of the small, because the right is the same for everyone. I am glad the Crown have proved that I am the leader of the half-breeds in the Northwest. I'll perhaps one day be acknowledged as more than a leader of the half-breeds. And if I am, I will have an opportunity of being acknowledged as a leader of good in this great country. Yes, I have done my duty. During my life, I have aimed at practical results. I hope that after my death, my spirit will bring practical results. All that I have done and rested certainly on the conviction that I was called upon to do something for my country. I know through the grace of God, I am the founder of Manitoba, Louis Riel, May 6, 1885, Batoche, 6 months before his execution. Quotes from Riel at trial. I read the entire thing today. Your Honors, gentlemen of the jury, this is Riel speaking. It would be easy for me today to play insanity, because the circumstances are such to excite any man. And under the natural excitement of what is taking place today, I cannot speak English very well, but I'm trying to do so because most of those here speak English. Of course, that is a Protestant jury in the territories. Under the excitement which my trial causes me would justify me not to appear as usual, but with my mind out of its ordinary condition. I hope with the help of God, I will maintain calmness and decorum as suits this honorable court, this honorable jury. This is what else he said. The day of my birth, I was helpless, and my mother took care of me. Although she was not able to do it alone, there was someone to help her to take care of me, and I lived. Today, although a man, I am as helpless before this court, in the Dominion of Canada, and in this world, as I was helpless on the knees of my mother the day of my birth. The Northwest is also my mother. It is my mother country. And although my mother country is sick and confined in a certain way, there was some from Lower Canada who came to help her and take care of her during her sickness. And I'm sure my mother country will not kill me more than my mother did 40 years ago when I came into the world. Because a mother is always a mother, and even if I have my faults, If she can see I am true, she will be full of love for me. Do these reflections sound like a man that's crazy? He could have took the easy route and said I'm insane, and he would have been found insane, and he would have lived. But everything he did would have been gone. Riel was a defender of the prairies, defending all people who called the Red River home, defending the homeland from an expansionist manifest destiny of the United States under Ulysses S. Grant. Again, it was Riel who protected. We could have been Americans today, my friends. It wasn't Riel who stood at the borderlines and said, made it very clear, you cross these lines, you go to war with the Métis. We would not allow Riel to be exonerated.
Order. Your
Yes.
time has
5
expired.
minutes.
Point of order.
Honorable First Minister,
I'd ask for leave to allow the president to finish his statement.
is there leave? Okay. Otherwise, leave. Okay, Mr. President.
We had not allowed Riel to be exonerated. To do so would have been to forgive him for crimes that he was not guilty of in the first place. As you know, in this country, the exoneration issue was based in the Parliament, it was raised out here, and we fought vigorously. I fought vigorously against it because it would have been wrong, and I have a background in justice, and I know it would have led to, again, injustice if it was exonerated for him not ever being guilty of a crime he did not commit. Lou Riel led the provincial government as president of then named Assiniboia, which became the province of Manitoba. In other words, one and the same. His was the first government, and Riel was defending the people who occupied the land from uncertainty and threats from the east. There is still a need to educate the educated on these points. The son of an MMF member was told by a teacher that Riel was not the first premier of Manitoba. I'm talking now, not a month, year, now. My granddaughter is sitting there with the Riel around her neck, and I'm proud of her. She's 16. Martha's high school project just started the other day. Students were provided with the following statement. Historically, Riel is viewed as either a hero or a traitor. The correct title for him is traitor. That's what the school says in the sentence. I can show you it as evidence. Martha crossed out the word traitor and wrote hero in her place as a Métis person and a Métis citizen. Now, was the school causing a debate to occur? I'm not sure. I'll find out more details why the school would classify him as a traitor. When the Lou Riel Act receives royal assent, it will ensure that telling the truth about Lou Riel's place in Canada as the founder of Manitoba and as the province's father of Confederation will be enshrined in Manitoba law. Finally, we can begin to reconcile the harm done to the legacy of Lou Riel through the mistruths taught to generations of all Manitoba school children. I thank the NDP government led by Premier Rob Canoe again for introducing the Act, an important acknowledgement from our First Nation Premier in Canada. I thank Heather Stephenson for remarks in support of the Lou Riel Act in the legislature. This is what she said. I think what's really important about this, Deputy Speaker, is that this bill that's before us today is an important one. It will bestow an honorary title on Lou Riel for the history that he has made in our province. And we on this side of the House are fully supportive of this. And I hope that those words stand firm. I thank Cindy Lamoureux, again, leader of the Liberal Party, for her steadfast support of the Red River Métis. In my last statement, I give given the supportive positions of members of each party, there should be no hesitations or delays in this bill being adopted unanimously by all members of the Legislative Assembly immediately. And that, as a religious man myself, and Riel being a religious man, and so are my people, if we see unanimous support, it'll touch the hearts of every Métis citizen and also touch the hearts of Lou Riel's heart as he watches and looks down upon us. So with that, Madam Chair, I conclude my comments.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Do members of the committee have questions for the presenter? Honorable First Minister.
Thank you very much, President Chartrand, for your words. And I know you brought a lot of people here with you today, which is good to see. But I noted that you brought your granddaughter. And I wonder if you could just talk to the committee about why that's important.
Mr. Chartrand.
Thank you very much, but I apologize for speaking without acknowledgement. Clearly, my wife and I have raised my granddaughter. We've raised her since a child because of the situation at home where my other grandson is born with a very rare syndrome and has needed medical attention even to this day at the age of 15. So we've been fortunate and lucky enough to raise our granddaughter, and I've been raising her on the beliefs of who we are. Just like my mom said to me, she said, my mom said to me, don't you ever forget where you come from. And I never will. And we teach that to my granddaughter. and she's taken passion to this, and she's been selected by the school to do certain things. When this issue came up, and she didn't tell me, she told my wife, she crossed out traitor and she put hero. I could see a defender coming of my people, one that has great pride in the sense of who she is, and she takes great pride in being Métis and also supporting causes. She, on the Orange Shirt Day, she was adamant we wear orange shirts. On certain days, red dress, she's out there pushing on those issues. So she's really adopted, I hope, what the spirit will be from our young generation to stand up and believe. You heard that people today are ashamed to be Métis. It is true. A lot of people came back because of years and decades of this falsehood about Riel being a traitor, a madman, and just the enemy of the state. People have now come forth and said, wow, he's a real hero. He's a real first premier of our province. It's going to change the mindset of the entire and the country. Just today, Mr. Premier, tomorrow you'll read an article in the Free Press or in the TV, hopefully in media stations. I am taking Bell Canada to court. I'm taking Astra to court, and potentially the Ottawa Airport to court. As you know, we're a very proud Red River Métis people, and we have the signs promoting who we are, the Red River Métis government, which we have at the airports. You see them all over. You see them all over, wherever we drive. Proud who we are. We have the same signs in Ottawa. They were taken down December 1st, and our contract doesn't end till next year, 2024, June. So we are going to challenge this action. Why in the hell would you take down our signs? And if somebody complained about them, what can they complain about? That's exactly who I am. That's what I'm teaching my daughter, Mr. Premier. I'm teaching her to be an advocate. I'm teaching her to be proud of who she is. And she truly is getting out of her shell. And as I said, I actually do see a leader of tomorrow coming. And that, I hope, will resonate with so many of our young leaders of tomorrow. Thank you.
Mr. Owasco?
Thank you, President Chartrand, for coming today and again, demonstrating democracy here in Manitoba. There's very few provinces in Canada that has the opportunity to hear from the public and organizations bringing forward to any kind of bills that are coming to this wonderful legislature. So thank you again for your presentation, and I looked forward. It was great working with you, and I look forward to working with you moving forward as well. So thank you very much.
Mr. Chartrand, would you like to respond?
I have to get...
It's Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Honorable. Mr. Wasco, I do thank you for your kind words, but let me say this before I leave out of here. It's important that I recognize, and you recognize me for who I am, a government. I'm not an organization. When that mindset is changed amongst everybody, and it's not just you, Mr. Wasco, it's still out there. It's because we're forced to be a corporation by the governments that people continue to call us organizations. When you start looking at me as a government, looking at my government, and behind me is my cabinet, all proud and willing to fight the fight for whatever cause, and I think it'll change the mindset of how we interact with each other. Because I am a government, and I thank you again, Mr. Kino, on a statement you have made, or Premier Kino. I've got to be careful with my language here. I'm common man. I speak the common language. So, but the point for me is that it's been now said it'll be nation to nation, government to government. Your Premier have said that in the past, but now we're seeing it's going to be real, and I want it to be real because I want to walk into a room and you're going to look at me as a leader of my people. You're going to look at how Riel should have been seen in 154 years ago. 153 years ago, to be honest with you. So when I look at it that way, imagine, I always tell my cabinet, and I tell my people,
Order.
imagine.
Time has expired. MLA Lamoureux?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Do I have leave to ask one more question?
Is there leave?
Agreed.
Agreed. MLA Lamoureux.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and thank you, President Chartrand, for coming out today and for your presentation and just for your continued work with, and I like that, your government, the continued work with all of the other levels of government, the municipal, federal, and provincial. The contributions that you have made are outstanding, and they continue to be. I won't use our time, just give you some more time to finish up your thoughts.
Thank you very much for that.
President Chartrand?
Billy, I keep on forgetting. Thank you, Billy. Amen. Thank you, Madam Chair. So let me say this. To finish off my statement, Mr. Wasco, and also thank you for that time to lead me into the answer. You know, I always reflect the thoughts of my people at assemblies and meetings. As you know, we have the largest assembly in this province. We have 4,000 people at our annual assembly, bigger than any political party you have in the gatherings you have. And these are citizens coming from all across, and now we have people joining us from across through video or driving from all over, even including British Columbia. We have thousands upon thousands joining the Federation today, coming home to their government. But let me say this, I say to Cabinet, imagine 153 years ago, if Riel was treated as a premier and the government was treated as a government, where would we be as Métis people? We would not be the working poor today. We'd still be hard working, no doubt. That's our backbone. But we would be in a different economical state. Imagine the land did not be taken from us. Just what we'd be today. Just like the Mennonites, which I'm very proud of them. They had 586,000 acres of land. They were allowed to live as a communal state. Today, they're the most powerful, some areas, justice and judges and in economics, because they were allowed to live as a communal state as a people. So you look at that. I tell them, just dream, I tell my people. Imagine for a second we are allowed to live the way we should have been allowed to live. Allowed to be treated as a government, as a people. Just imagine that. Where would we be today? Maybe we'd be spoiled brats, I tell them. I don't know. But hopefully we'd be good people, hard-working people, and that's what we are today. So thank you for that question, and thank you, Cindy, for allowing me to finish off my sentence. There's a tough chair there. So anyways, lucky she's not a Speaker of the House. Anyways, no, I'm joking.
On behalf of the committee, I would like to thank you for being here, for representing your citizens, and speaking so well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me time here. Thank you to all members, and again, congratulations.
That concludes the list of presenters I have before me. Would anybody else in the room like to make a presentation? Okay. Seeing none, we will now begin clause by clause. We're not doing this. Do you want me to say that? In what order does the committee wish to consider the bills before us?
Two first, needs to be on the right.
Okay, Honorable First Minister.
Bill 2 first.
Is that agreed?
Is that agreed? Great. As agreed, we will now proceed with clause by clause of Bill 2. Does the minister responsible for Bill 2 have an opening statement? Honorable First Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and thanks to all of my colleagues for being here this evening. Thanks to all of the people who attended and the officials who spoke. I appreciate the commentary from President Chartrand, from the spokesperson for Infinity Women's Secretariat, Anita Campbell, as well as Joël Tétrault from Union Nationale Métis Saint-Joseph du Manitoba. I just wanted to just say on the record that I transcribed the phrase in Soto, Anishinaabe, Moen, Ojibwe, that President Chartrand said. Never forget where you come from. Kego Wika, Wenikin, Wenjin. And I just want that to be reflected in Hansard with the orthography from the language so that that's included accurately. The bill has been described and spoken to by people in the public, so I think everyone understands the purpose of this. It's to right an historic wrong in a way that still reflects the challenges of the past 150 plus years. So recognizing Mr. Riel's founding contributions to this province and his role as a father of Confederation in Canada, but to do so without erasing the fact that many people have had to fight for many years for this recognition to be broadly based and understood in our society, including many citizens of the Manitoba Métis Federation, which is the national government of the Red River Métis. I know that I certainly look up to Mr. Riel, and I've been on my own learning journey about his contributions. And hearing the quotes that are read into the record about what he had to share, I find very moving. And in particular, you know, his statement approaching the end of his life, that he wished someday to be recognized, and I quote, as being acknowledged as a leader of good in this great country, end quote, I think spoke to his aspirations to be a nation builder and his commitment to Canada, which is a country that we all know and love. And so I think it's very important that we move forward as a collective process of charting how we're going to talk about our heritage and legacy and province here in this way. And I think that that's a benefit for all people. We heard certainly from the presenters tonight that this means a lot to Métis people in Manitoba and to the Métis Nation. But it's my view that this is a positive step for kids and people of all walks of life. When we better understand our true history, I think we're better able to build the province and country that we want together as one province for the future. And with that in mind, I know that President Chartrand was on a roll when we did the first reading of this, and I just wanted to read his quote into the record that he said on that day. We brought this bill forward for the first time. He said, quote, "This is a proud day for our people and a proud day for all Manitobans, all societies, all nationalities, different religions, different backgrounds. We are all Manitoba," end quote. And I think that's very fitting because, among other things, that was Riel's vision. And I think if we all work together as Manitobans, as one province, that's when we're going to succeed together. So with those few words, very much appreciate everyone being here this evening.
We thank the minister. Does the critic from the official opposition have an opening statement? Mr. Owasco.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and I too, on behalf of our opposition Progressive Conservative side, would like to thank all presenters for coming today and sharing not only your words but your stories. President Chartrand with Manitoba Red River Métis government and your cabinet. I too am hoping that the Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning is listening today as well, because I do know that we started many great initiatives with the Red River Métis and your cabinet. And I look forward to seeing those efforts continue moving forward. So thank you, everyone, again, and I look forward to moving forward with clause by clause.
Thank you, Mr. Owasco. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Just literally, okay. Shall clause 1 pass?
Pass.
Okay, clause 1 is accordingly passed. Shall clause 2 pass?
Pass.
Clause 2 is accordingly passed. Shall clause 3 pass?
Pass.
Clause 3 is accordingly passed. Shall clause 4 pass?
Pass.
Clause 4 is accordingly passed. Shall the preamble pass?
Pass.
The preamble is accordingly passed. Shall the enacting clause pass?
Pass.
The enacting clause is accordingly passed. Shall the title pass?
Pass.
The title is accordingly passed. Shall the bill be reported?
Yes.
Agreed. The bill shall be reported.
We'll now move on to
I would like to inform the committee that under our Rule 85, bracket 2, the following membership substitutions have been made for this committee, effective immediately. Honorable Minister Bushy for Honorable Minister Cable, MLA Redhead for MLA Loisel. I have received a letter of resignation as Vice Chairperson from MLA Loisel, which I table. Accordingly, before the committee can continue with the business before it, it must elect a new Vice Chairperson. Are there any nominations?
You, go ahead.
Minister Bushy.
Nominate.
Oh, MLA Bushy. I mean Minister Bushy.
I nominate MLA Redhead.
Are there any other nominations? MLA Redhead having been nominated and seeing there's no other nominations, he is elected Vice Chairperson.
Congratulations.
Does the minister responsible for Bill 4 have an opening statement? Honorable First Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. So I just want to say for the benefit of the people in the room that we've passed the Louis Riel Act, and so it'll now go back to the chamber, and we'll be yeah. So I just wanted to explain the procedure and report that the last bill we just considered will be headed to third reading and then hopefully royal assent, at which time it will be ready to become law. And we're now doing another bill that I think will be of interest to the presenters and other folks who are in the room, which is the bill that I'm speaking to now, which is the Orange Shirt Day bill, Bill 4. And so we know that residential schools have had a huge impact on our country, and perhaps Manitoba is one of those places that has borne one of the greatest impacts. Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, in my experience, was a powerful, powerful time in our country's history in which we had residential school survivors come forward and share their experience. But then to move beyond telling their stories to also engage in charting a course forward for our country that could answer the question that so many of us have when we hear the stories of what residential school survivors experienced when they were little kids, which is, how could this country that I love so much have a history like this? And how do I reconcile that history with the vision that I want for Canada to be this great country going forward into the future? And I think the contribution of the residential school survivors was so important because they took from these hearings of pain and trauma and different emotions, very emotional hearings, I would say. They took out of that a roadmap for how do you grapple with those tough questions and make the country even better than it is today for the future. And one of the recommendations contained in these calls to actions is to have the day to recognize the experiences of survivors, to commemorate the children who never came home, and to honor the parents who were left behind. And so this bill is another step towards advancing the project of reconciliation here in Manitoba. It would make Orange Shirt Day a statutory holiday in the province. And that's important because up to now, there has been extensive recognition of Orange Shirt Day in the school system and in some workplaces. And here I will acknowledge the previous government's work on the education side. Our colleague, the member for Steinbach, was the premier, I think the first time when this was a designated day off in the provincial school system. But with the exception of some employers who think this is an important priority, and I know there's some clothing manufacturers and some real estate developers and people in other industries who give their employees the day off to commemorate Orange Shirt Day. Many other people have to go to work, which also means that many other kids aren't able to participate in the activities to the extent that they would like. And we all are familiar with the phrase, every child matters. And so to me, passing a law to ensure that every child, no matter where their parent works, no matter which provincially regulated workplace they go to work in, that every child is able to participate is another way for us to live up to that phrase, every child matters. And so it's my hope that the next Orange Shirt Day, the children of people who work in manufacturing, work in construction, work in all the provincially regulated sectors are able to participate along with all their friends in the Orange Shirt Day commemorations that take place from north to south and from east to west across Manitoba. And so that's what this bill is really all about, and I think it's an important step forward. And I guess just in closing, I want to acknowledge the courage and the magnanimity of the residential school survivors. You know, experienced some very difficult things and challenging things. I think these are folks who had every right to be angry or to be upset about the way they were treated in this country. And yet, instead of dwelling on that, they chose to emerge with a plan for hope and an opportunity to bring people together from different walks of life. And I think that, among other things, is a powerful example of resilience and deserves to be taught to young people alongside maybe some of the more challenging aspects of the history that they experienced. And on a personal level, I just wanted to say the names of some relatives of mine. So my late father, Tabasanakwa Bun, was somebody who was a residential school survivor, as was my late Aunt Nancy. And they were able to participate in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. They were able to hear the apology. But I wanted to say the names of two of their siblings, John Pete and Tutuns, who's also known as Edwin. And I wanted to say Tutuns and John Pete's names into the record because they never lived to see the apology. They never received compensation. They never had the chance to see the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. They experienced all of the hardship and the challenges, but they didn't get to see where we are today in Canada. And so I'm very hopeful about the future and what the next generation of Manitoba kids and Canadian children are going to be able to achieve when they're the decision makers in this province. But as we move forward towards that goal, I do want to take one moment to commemorate some of the folks who weren't able to join us along the way. So with those words on the record, very much look forward to moving this bill forward as well.
We thank the minister. Does the critic from the official opposition have an opening statement? Okay, no opening statement. Shall clause 1 pass? Pass. Clause 1 is accordingly passed. Shall clause 2 pass? Clause 2 is accordingly passed. Shall clause 3 pass? Clause 3 is accordingly passed. Shall clause 4 pass? Clause 4 is accordingly passed. Shall the preamble pass?
Pass.
The preamble is accordingly passed. Shall the enacting clause pass? The enacting clause is accordingly passed. Shall the title pass? The title is accordingly passed. Shall the bill be reported?
Agreed.
Agreed. The bill shall be reported. Honorable First Minister.
I'd like to ask if there is leave here at the committee to include the written transcription that I tabled as written of President Chartrand's comments for inclusion in Hansard.
Is there leave? Leave has been granted, and it is not a point of order.
Okay. Tough but fair.
The hour being 7:23, what is the will of the committee? Committee rise.